You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 176 of the Century and his favorite podcast. I'm Jeremiah Morrell. Today on my left, I'm joined by, we'll call him a co-host, Zach Burcham. On my right, super guest, Rob Kendall, wearing a very sexy Red for Rob shirt that we all remember what happened. And my forever co-host, Dakota Davis.
Today's episode features the very special guest, Rob Kendall from 93.1 WIBC. You are the host of the Rob Kendall Show. You award-winning. The award-winning Rob Kendall Show. The
weekend dominant, by the way. You get the biggest ratings of anybody in your time slot on the weekend.
You're the
Sundays 1 to 3 have never been bigger.
Unless there's a Colts game, and then they bump Rob.
Yeah, every Colts game, whenever there's a Colts game, the show is taped in advance.
We are going to be talking to Rob about all kinds of things happening in Indiana right now. We're first going to talk about the coronavirus update, COVID-19. Eric Holcomb has made another announcement about the state.
Lame duck.
We're going to talk about things opening up, what the state's starting to look like, and whether or not his two opponents like his decisions, and whether or not it might just be too late for Holcomb, because people are angry on him from the left, people are angry at him from the right. So he's just in a tough spot. He's between a rock and a hard place right now. We're going to give our projections on that. Then we're going to be talking about the notorious RGB, and she passed away September 18th, and give you a little bit of history on her, and then also what we can expect in the future.
Going to be an exciting night. Oh, we got to do some thank yous. We just did a cool 20 minutes with Rob and Zach and Dakota and myself and producer Chris over there. By the way, if anything's off slightly, he will send him a DM and he'll take care of it right away.
I sure will.
I love how he leaned right into the wind screen on the mic.
I have to. Listen,
he's the creepiest producer.
He's got a what do they call these things over the microphone?
I have a
It's a pop
windshield.
It's a pop
screen.
I think he's a little triggered.
Because he thinks he's an audio star over there.
Like he's got
great.
Britney Spears.
Listen.
Oh yeah.
See how he leans into the pop screen like that?
Yeah.
Before he would lean into the mic like that.
Correct.
So you have to put that there to keep his mouth off of the microphone.
Listen, I just like to do this, okay? It's very good. Don't blame me.
Some of his best work. All right, so we got to say some thank you. If you join the Patreon, any level, let's name your own price, like Priceline used to be with that guy from the nerdy thing. Bill Shatner said
we do have tiers, and they're like $5. If you're at the $5 tier, here's the secret: if you donate like anything less than $5, you'll get everything in the $5 tier still.
You're giving it away, bro.
Is Mason still in at like $1.34?
Yeah, we have a couple of those people. But
that's the student plan, is what that is. That's for Stone and Mason, the student plan.
You have to have a .edu email address.
You guys are like a real life FanDuel, where if you just wait long enough, you'll get the promotion for free.
But here's the other catch.
And if you send your link code.
Here's the other catch. If you donate $9 or more a month and you're expecting the $10 tier,
you ain't getting that.
It's not going to happen.
Holding out.
Yeah.
Holding out. But I want to say that if you join at a certain level, you might get something as exciting as producer Chris printed on what I assume is some sort of an exfoliating pad as a sticker. I mean, these are impressive. Every one of the hosts that shows up from time to time are here, and these are going out to somebody.
Whenever I had this idea, Chase was on like every other week, so I made the one of Chase. If I had to redo it now, it would be Zach. But it takes a long time to turn a picture into a cartoon.
Like an hour.
It doesn't take that long.
They look like Pogs. Remember Pogs?
Yeah, absolutely.
They do look like Pogs. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, they're so well done.
custom Boss Hog of Liberty pogs made by my wife.
Made by
And
the
I love
Daisy.
I love that the Jeremiah Morrell photo is the photo we took together.
Yeah, that's
last time I was here.
I had no idea where that came from until just now when I started this. He said there came their profile picture, and I rolled through, and oh my God, it's Rob. It was me and Rob. You're the only one that brings that much joy to my face in this
it's
building.
understandable.
If you join at the tier where it starts asking you for your physical address, then you will get those. Or you can just come by the studio the next time we have an open studio and pick one up.
All right. So then if you're at $50 a month, if you're a
Or more.
incredible member, 50 or more, you get a shout out in every episode.
That's right. Those folks are Chris Lamb. He has the Green Fiddler Cigar Company that's coming soon to Newcastle.
Oh.
Yeah. So be looking forward to that.
Chris is also going to be on your ballots this fall.
That's right. He's running for school board.
Oh, here in Henry
Newcastle School.
Oh,
Schools,
yeah.
yes.
And we also have to thank the incredibly generous Christy Avery, who's like our longest running $50 a month subscriber.
Absolutely.
Jonathan Phillips, our favorite card dealer manager.
He's so much more than that to me.
Yeah. From Andy Moore, Buick and GMC, make sure you go visit Jonathan up there. Tell him that the Boss Hog of Liberty sing it. And then, of course, our good friend, Anthony Meyer. And I don't know what Anthony does for a living, but
Anthony
he's
is
a
a
good
truck
guy.
driver, and he posted on Facebook yesterday he's made it to 49 of the 50 states with his truck, but that 50th one is going to be a bitch.
Yeah.
So he's
going to have to take a ferry.
yeah, he's going to need some. He's going to need
A
some help.
long distance ferry.
Wow, I'm impressed that he went to Alaska.
And we do have a special guest watching right now. It appears that Donald Rainwater is watching.
Oh, hello.
And he says, special shout out to my ambassador of Quan.
Our next governor tuning in. I feel so much pressure.
This is best behavior, Rob.
Whoa. Before we get to that, we have more stuff to plug, Rob.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not done selling.
Teachip.com/bosshog, or no, sorry, that was wrong. Teachip.com/BHOO1, 2, 3, or 4, or /BHOO mug. That is where you can get all of your Boss Hog of Liberty merchandise. BHOO 4, that is where you can get your masks or bandoliers. But you can't wear the bandoliers on airplanes. They won't let you.
I did see that. You're calling it a bandolier, not a gator?
And, I mean, it's either or. I think it's the same thing.
The terminology just mask world. I hope someday, somehow, maybe whatever, we can get past this.
I'm looking forward to the day when I'm like cleaning out like a tote upstairs. I'm like, oh, here are my masks. Remember this? You have to scroll up to find the links because evidently Guffey was triggered because I beat him last week. So he posted about
Sure
5
did.
minutes ago.
I was like, not today, Zach, not today.
Listen, I don't know if it's ever going to go back to that.
I don't know if it will either at this point.
Because Eric Holcomb announced that everything's back to normal. The state's completely open
We are
back
at
up.
stage 5. I've reviewed the plan. This is as good as it gets. Restaurants are fully open.
Yep.
Bars, clubs, nightclubs fully open. This is it. This is we have
venues.
reached peak plan. Enjoy your new life.
We can have concerts, comedy shows here, all of it.
It's all set,
But you have to wear a mask.
but you have a new appendage.
Yep. And it's hot. You can't breathe that good.
Just a way of life. That's what he said.
So we were supposed to be here July 4th, and the science and data, Rob.
Yes.
They said that after polling shows that it's time. now is the time. September 20 somethingth. We can go ahead and move to stage 5.
And listen, whenever we talked about this before, Eric Holcomb came out and he said we have these 5 stages.
yes.
And he said we're going to be a completely data-driven in how we approach this. And that is how we are going to determine each of the stages. And I thought, this is the way that you should do it. If you have to do
Nothing
it,
will be arbitrary.
right. I'm like, if you have to do it, set dates, make the dates something that your constituency, the Hoosiers, can rally behind. Say we're going to all work together and make things better so that we can open up at this date. And then things got a little weird because he said, there's a new stage. We're going to call it 4.5. And I was like,
We've introduced decimals. This is advanced math.
so that's a little weird. 4.5. Now you've kind of pulled the blinds over our eyes on this one.
I find it interesting. You are so trusting of government. Like this whole
Listen,
podcast is
it
about how much
wasn't-
government sucks.
It wasn't that I was
We have differing
trusting.
views.
It wasn't that I was so trusting of government. It was more that I was very disappointed with the way that it was handled at first and everywhere else. And I thought setting the dates, setting the goals, the 5-stage plan, I thought that was the most reasonable course of action that he could take in like a bipartisan position. So I thought it was appropriate.
That was in June.
That was
Like when that started, or May. Yeah.
And the stage 5, we were supposed to be there July 4th.
Yes, the science said the same day as the race, which was amazing luck for us.
400 was going to work
It was
out.
amazing luck that the science worked out that way.
And then that dream got shattered. And then the Indy 500 dream got shattered. Finally, 7 days from right now, we are supposed to be allowed back inside as normal people. The folks that have to buy tickets to stuff, we're allowed to go back inside of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now that we're at stage 5, the Harvest GP is coming, and they've said 10,000 people. 2 5,000 seat venues are safe enough for you to go sit in the grandstands. As long as you wear your mask the entire time.
How nice of them. So you have to wear the mask.
You have to wear your mask the entire time. No word on whether or not you'll be allowed in and out. But 10,000 lucky souls are going to be allowed inside of the world's largest stadium.
So like we did the math for the first Colts game, and it's a roughly 70,000 person stadium.
Sure.
At 2,500, it came to one person every 28 seats. You could do the social distancing that they had suggested with basically one person every 3 seats.
Sure.
But let's just say you cut it in half and said one person every 14 seats. It's all ridiculous. It's wholly ridiculous.
Every bit of it's been arbitrary.
I'd probably go to more football games if they just kept that around. The worst part about sitting in the stands is the mouth breathers breathing down your shirt
And then the weird thing was before they even had that game, they said, hey, for the next one after that, 7,500.
7,500. But they had the same building, and they have 2 different teams that play there. The Colts play there, and the minor league soccer team plays there. And nobody had said, hey, we have rules. We don't have rules for the damn building. Each league and team are making their own rules. Or maybe they had 2 different arbitrators inside of the Marion County Health Department making up the rules, and they didn't talk around the water cooler because they're not allowed to be in the building. So they had 2 different numbers for the same building.
We used to say this all the time about it's rare in the 80s and 90s the Cubs would make the playoffs. The Chicago Cubs baseball team. And one of the sad things about the Cubs in the playoffs was the audience you would see in the playoffs did not reflect the audience that you would see Monday through Friday at Wrigley Field.
The regular fans.
The bleacher bum people were not, who were the actual Cubs fans, couldn't afford the tickets, couldn't get in to see the team. So at the playoffs, it was guys in suits and ties. I was like, that's not Wrigley Field. And I was seeing a lot of the people that got into the Colts games, the Colts game last Sunday, and I thought it kind of hurts my heart because the hardcore Colts fan probably wasn't connected enough to finagle one of the 2,500 people.
Absolutely.
And you would think if you're going to have some horrific number of fans, you'd want it to be the 2,500 most ardent, hardcore, we've been here since the Mayflower showed up fans.
Yeah. The 70-year-old at-risk people that have been there since 1984. Absolutely. So apparently we're so much better now, and 7,500 is the magic number.
Yes.
7,600, everybody dies.
Every 10 seats now.
Yes. So 7,500 people.
I like that one. 10 seats, 28 seats is too much.
You seem like the sort of guy who would buy 2 tickets around him when he goes to a movie theater so that
He's
you don't
very
have to
wealthy.
sit next to anyone.
He's very wealthy.
It's crossed my mind looking at concert tickets, not movie theaters, but concerts. I'm like,
You know who does that for real and brags about it is Abdul.
Oh, sure. I could see that.
yeah.
He buys the seats around him.
Abdul and I have a lot of things in common.
Yeah. Yeah, he will buy both seats around him when he goes to a movie so he doesn't have to sit next to anyone.
I like that.
So, yeah, the NFL has been.
We don't have assigned seats at movie theaters in these parts.
I remember the first time I
I'm
did
gonna
it,
be
was
honest, we
like
don't
last
have a
year, I
movie
was going out of
theater
town. I was
anymore.
like, what is this stuff? I have to, like, pick your seats. I'm like, pick my seat. I thought you just went in there and found a seat.
They don't fold down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you go to the movie theater, Zach, and it's a recliner. It's a whole thing.
I know it's nicer seats than I have in my house.
You sure drink beers?
Do your kids have to bring their own stuff to throw at the screen to break the projector?
Oh, man, no, we sit in the back. We can't throw that far.
You just hit the people with the back of the head.
Yeah, that's their problem. Risk. That's your risk.
Risk
going
of looking at it and watching a kid's movie, right?
So this executive order that came out today from Emperor Holcomb says 100% capacity, but then local governments can do whatever the heck they want.
Well, there's a huge caveat to it, which is he insists on social distancing. So if you're a bar or restaurant owner, it's not close to 100% because you can't function at a bar with 6 feet of social distancing. So it's not. It's highly disingenuous. He's a pathological liar.
In the executive order, he encouraged social distancing.
Well, but I think that's still part of the opening up is that I mean, he literally said it yesterday. So it's not. I mean, if you go to Kilroy's in downtown Indianapolis, part of the fun of the attraction of Kilroy's is
being up on each other.
Yeah. You meet Rob Kendall and you meet many other people.
That's right.
On a Friday night. You're not doing that under that order. And that's a huge part of their business. You're not helping them by saying, well, you can be open full capacity when you still have these restrictions, which limit how they make their money. And you guys know this, tabletops and space is the most important thing in a bar or restaurant. So he's highly disingenuous when he's trying to say, well, we're fully open, but here's these little caveats.
And also, the mask mandate still stays in effect.
Well, but if you have a beer in your hand, you're safe. That's what's important, too. As long as you're drinking, if you're seated at a table or if you have a beer in your hand, you cannot be harmed. You're fine. Government says that that's okay.
They were hardcore about it on our Southwest Airlines flight. Audrey was
masks.
Of course, we had baby Jackson in the car seat. Apparently, the babies cannot sit in the middle seat. You have to put them in the window seat, which is weird.
Do they charge you for a ticket?
No, not for a child under one. A lap, a child that can sit in your lap. But so he's in the car seat next to her, and he's like starting to get a little fussy. So she like pulled her mask down and was like smiling at him and breathing at him. And the flight attendant was like, ma'am, you have to put your mask over your nose.
So the airline was mad about basic parenting.
Yeah. It was a whole experience. The trip was wild. It was so strange.
Were you guys flying ATA, AirTran? What fine?
I said Southwest.
It's been a while since I've flown.
I said Southwest.
TWA.
The plane was
Northwest.
the plane they said was only slightly over 50% full. So that was cool. And the airport was dead.
The Indianapolis airport.
Yeah.
Where you flew out of.
Both of them.
Wow.
Yeah. They were both just totally dead. It was wild. It was also really nice because there's no line at the TSA.
Again, this is the guy that wants 10 spots between him and the
world
person
he wants
next
to
him.
live in is going to cost 10 times as much as the one that we want to live in, Rob. He's got expensive taste.
Listen, once we get Andrew Yang at president, we can afford it. $1,000 a month.
Well, I mean, if you're unemployed, you'd be getting $2,400 a month.
Yeah.
You're just doing this wrong. All right. So the big news last week, Abdul Hakim Shabazz, if you are a cheat sheet subscriber, which I am, you got a sweet little email that said that IndyPolitics.org did a poll, and Eric Holcomb, the incumbent governor, 36%. Woody Myers, the challenging Democrat, was polling at 30%, and Don Rainwater polling at 24% with 10% undecided. A poll that had a plus or minus margin of error of about 3%, 10% still undecided 8 weeks out of the election. That poll made the entire political world in Indiana screeching halt.
Was that poll, and you guys can answer this better than I can, was that the greatest moment in Indiana libertarian history when that poll came out?
It was right up there. It was right up there where you go, oh, boy, they have hit the nerve of nerves,
It's
Rob.
almost like whenever your Republican opponent makes racist Facebook posts and you think, well, we got him now. But then it doesn't happen.
So that did eclipse the Murdoch moment as the greatest moment in Libertarian Party history then?
Yes. Yes. I'll leave it there. Yes. I'm not going to say anything I shouldn't dig into.
It was amazing because I saw that come in and I was like, you sent me a screenshot of the cheat sheet and I was like, what? That can't be real. And then I started seeing it everywhere.
You've started
and
to
then
see it anecdotally before that.
Right.
Where people that you don't know politically are starting to talk about Don Rainwater's campaign.
And the best part, if you haven't done it, it's sport now for me, is to go to the Republican Party and Eric Holcomb Facebook pages on a daily basis.
Yes.
And every post they make, no matter what the topic is, the comments are the best 30 minutes you'll spend all day.
My
Pure
favorites are
hate.
just like, it'll be something like the there's the race is coming back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then it's just a bunch of people in the comments that are just like, Don Rainwater for governor.
It is, and it couldn't happen to a better, more deserving person, and I'm sure we'll get into that later. But it is wonderful to see how ardent the support is for Rainwater, and a huge portion of it is that this guy Holcomb is so reviled.
So
here was what I wanted to talk about with that was, is there a governor in the United States that's not going to be extremely disliked during this election cycle?
I don't know. The governor of South Dakota seems to be doing just fine.
No one pays attention to it. There's like 8 people that live there.
It's what you do, but it's also how you handle it. And I hope it's okay if I go into this just a little bit, the history of Eric Holcomb, because
Absolutely.
It's very important. And everybody hearing our voices right now, whether it's live or on the podcast, we are not kidding. There is literally a chance for the first time in U.S. political history for a libertarian to be elected governor of a state. So if you're hearing this, even if you don't live here, if you care about liberty and freedom, rainwaterforindiana.com is the website. Go there, check it out, consider donating $5, $10, change your profile picture, whatever. This is a real chance. And this is coming from
it's lightning in a bottle right now.
This is coming from, if you don't know my history, and a former elected Republican and a guy Donald Trump in person once told terrific. So I'm not some in the tank libertarian. I'm still technically a registered Republican in the primary. But the history of Eric Holcomb, he was given what he has. He was running third in the 3-way Senate race when Dan Coates decided to retire.
His boss was retiring, and he said, "I want that job."
And it was Todd Young and Marlon Stutzman. And Marlon Stutzman was winning that Senate race because Holcomb and a guy named Todd Young, who's now the senator, were splitting the vote. And the Republican Party of Indiana said, we have a huge problem here. We have to figure out a way to get this goober Holcomb out of the race. Holcomb was so bad in that race, he was so far behind, his literal campaign strategy was to shoot baskets in all 92 counties. No joke. I mean, he was very proud of it. He was out of money. He had no chance. So we got to get this guy out, but he's not going to just go willingly because he doesn't know anything but politics.
Shoot the baskets like a clay pigeon.
He was doing, like a Hoosiers thing, like Jimmy Chitwood. You guys got these here in Newcastle.
We have the Hoosier Gym.
Yeah, that's right here in a beautiful Knightstown.
Can't believe that joke didn't land.
The basketball ring. And so they said, we got to get this guy out of the race. Well, he's not going to go willingly. So they, at the time, had a lieutenant governor named Sue Ellspermann,
She got a lateral promotion.
Who did not like Mike Pence, who was the governor at the time. She was a really good, decent person. She quickly found out what it's like to work in and around Mike Pence. I can say that because I did it too. And Pence was going to have to go super negative in the campaign against John Gregg because Pence was so unpopular at the time. And Sue Ellspermann is a great woman. She's a very good and decent person. And she said, I'm not doing this. I'm not playing this game. I got into politics and government to do good, not be a lapdog attack dog. So the Indiana party bosses figured out if we can get rid of her, there's a way to get rid of this guy and move them around. Conveniently, the president position at Ivy Tech, the community college, opened up. And boy, wouldn't you know, just like that science saying 4th of July was the day that we can all go out and do things again.
Perfect candidate.
Sue Ellspermann was the best person in the whole state to run Ivy Tech. So I'll be darned if she didn't get that job. And wouldn't you know, of all the 6.7 million people in our state, you know who the best person to be lieutenant governor was? Keep in mind, he's never actually been elected. He'd run for one public office before and got beaten, was running again and was getting beaten. But it turned out it was Eric Holcomb. And boy, wouldn't you know, Eric got to be lieutenant governor. She got her job. And then all of a sudden it was Todd Young against Marlon Stutzman one-on-one. And Todd Young got $3.5 million from various high-level GOP establishment donors, and
done and done.
It's amazing how it all works out. But I'm rambling here. I'm sorry.
Who did you work for in that campaign?
I worked for Marlon. I worked for Marlon Stutzman, so I saw it firsthand.
Yeah, you were on the inside to see it.
I mean, I saw it all happen firsthand. And not to branch off in the Todd Young thing, but we all know the thing where he didn't get the signatures to be on the ballot. It was blatant he didn't get the signatures.
497 is close enough in Lake County.
I mean, and any one of us who got it, that happened, they would have thrown us off in a second. But because literally a guy on the election board donated to him.
Listen, man, he's a Marine.
Big money. And his attorney at the election board was Susan Brooks, who's a U.S. rep's husband. I mean, these Republican Party guys are so blatantly corrupt, and they don't even hide it because they realize they can scare people into saying, well, you don't want a Democrat, right? I mean, we're not your cup of tea, but you don't want a Democrat. And Eric Holcomb is the head of that snake. Yeah. He's the literal head of that snake.
So he ran for lieutenant governor, and then your guy picked Vice President Pence.
Yes.
Formerly Governor Pence, formerly my Congressman Pence.
Yes.
For a decade as the running mate.
And now you have the brother, right?
And now we have Greg. I've never met him. I've tried many times. Greg has never crossed paths with me.
Did he ever pay that money back to the people at the bank?
Not so sure.
Oh, they didn't get that money. Okay. All right. Go on. No, I'm sorry.
No. Bankruptcy law, he did the Michael Scott and said, I declare bankruptcy.
Because he runs the campaign on the values and stuff. So right. I just, you'd think in your community if you kind of.
Ready to serve again.
Okay.
So he.
We all know.
I haven't actually seen him talk. Ever. I've never heard his voice. Not once.
I had to do an event one time that he was at in his district, and the things I've said publicly, you know me, anything I'll say publicly, I'll say right to your face. He was there, and that was awkward because I've said all these things on a radio station. You can get all the way from Ohio to
That's what I figure is going to happen to us probably next cycle. Is he'll finally be like,
oh, sure, we'll come in.
Yeah, I'll do an interview. And we'll be like, please don't listen to the show before you come.
Well, every time he swings through Henry County, somebody they post it on Facebook, and it's like Guffey is always right in there. He's like, you could swing by and let us know you're coming or something like that.
Absolutely. It's absolutely ridiculous that he does not want to get out of the echo chamber.
We'll get off topic for a half second on Congressman Pence. Literally, he has not met anybody that's not at a Republican event. It's always like the hot dog on the courthouse lawn, or, hey, we're going to meet with 7 Republicans and take a picture in a restaurant. It's always a very safe place.
Yeah, it's an echo chamber. It's absolutely ridiculous. And
And the only reason that he's going to be at the restaurant is because our good friend Clay Morgan is like, hey, Greg Pence is coming to town if anybody wants to come by.
You got 38 minutes notice, and it's at 2:00 on a Tuesday.
Not any of the last 2 times he's been here. And I've sent messages to Republicans. I'm like, look, you need to give me a heads up. I'll take time off work to come talk to the man.
Think about if your whole life was based on, I have the same last name and I bear a strong resemblance to my very famous brother.
I'm going to ride them coattails as far as I can, baby.
So
submarine tactics.
So he's a 120-day campaign, essentially. Pence ends up the vice presidential nominee. The Republicans have 3 people that decide they want to be governor. Susan Brooks, Todd Rokita, who's running for something else now. I don't remember anymore. And
Attorney General.
Is that the one this time?
He's just running the joke over here.
He's checked a lot of boxes.
I think it's Congress, isn't it? Or Secretary of State. Nobody can remember.
You should have like dry erase at the bottom of the sign.
I think he
I don't think it says the office on the sign.
Just vote for Todd. You do it every time. That's it.
It just says, Rakita, if you see me on the ballot.
Can you, like when I ran, and it was a local office, but I took a long time to decide, would I be good at this? Can I make a difference at this? And this was on the local level. Can you imagine just picking every office and being like, I'd be good at that one. I'd be good. I mean, just ping.
I looked at myself in the mirror and said, I'm perfect for that one too.
I actually kind of like Todd. I went to the Senate debate in, what year was that?
Was this the one where he went at Abdul?
It was, whichever one that we got invited to as the press, and I went, and I think, Tony Katz was moderating.
Okay.
That was in the lobby of Emmis.
That's right.
And
I was not invited.
I watched that debate, and I was like,
you were working for Hendricks County Public Radio at the time.
It was, Mike Braun, Todd Young. Wait, no. Who was it?
Messer.
Yeah, Luke Messer.
Yeah.
And Mike Braun and Luke Messer
and Todd Rokita
were being like pretty nice.
Yeah.
And Todd just didn't care.
Yeah.
And he just went out there and he said whatever was on his mind. It was like, but it wasn't in the Trump way.
Yeah.
Where it was like, it was blatantly offensive, but he was trying to make a joke, but the jokes didn't land. So then he just tried harder. He was like actually making points.
The crazy thing about Todd Rokita, and I say this many times, and his people hate me now, of course, because anytime you call out a high-profile politician for the truth, right? I mean, it's not stuff you have to make up. It's easily provable. They get very angry. Todd was a great Secretary of State.
Sure.
For all the bull crap he's done afterwards, he was really good. He was very fair to libertarians.
He was great to libertarians. He had the best redistricting plan I've ever seen with his Rethink Redistricting. That was fantastic.
He was really good at that. He was an okay congressman, but then, and so many politicians do this, they say, oh, well, Trump got elected and he's really Trumpy. And it's like, there's only one Trump and he's really good at it and you're not that. So just be yourself. And that was what was so disappointing about him is he could have actually run on a record. He's like one politician that could have run on a record and he just made a joke of himself.
So he had merged those two sides into like this one perfect.
Like Captain Planet.
Before we forget where we're at, let's pick up the story of how Eric Holcomb got from Pike High School to here. So he, Susan Brooks and Todd Rokita run for governor. The 18 Republican
Central Committee,
the folks that get to pick, they sit down one Saturday, say, hey, it's going to be Holcomb. He picks a lieutenant governor nominee and he wins a very, very quick campaign, gets a bunch of money from the Republican Governors Association, and he narrowly beats John Gregg and Rex Bell. 4 years, he's just kind of mundane, standard Republican. He raised taxes a couple of times along the way,
50 times.
And then pandemic hits, and then you see authoritarian Holcomb.
Well, but that's who he is, right? Eric Holcomb is an elitist individual. He's not a person who has earned anything he's had. He hasn't had a real job since he was in the Navy. He's always been the tagger along in politics. And these Republican establishment politicians, and most importantly, the donors and lobbyists, they love Eric Holcomb. They love him because he has no original thought.
They're not going to say that they love him because he was the guy that was showing up at all of these events as the state chairman and all of that.
Listen,
he was the grinder. He was doing the work.
At the start of all this, I really liked Eric. I thought Holcomb was doing a good job. I thought that his all of his talk about data-driven policy was great. I thought that we needed level-headed, data-driven policy that didn't care about what either side emotionally wanted. It was just focused on the facts. And I thought that's what we were going to get. And I talked about it a lot whenever we were doing this show over Zoom about how I thought he was doing a great job. And then he just kept moving the goalposts. And I thought that's not what leadership looks like. It's not what leadership looks like at all. Leadership looks like uniting a team and taking ownership for the actions that you take. And he did neither of those things. Instead, he just drove a wedge of division between the two camps that were already bickering at each other on social media.
So a couple things with Eric. So when you have someone who doesn't have core convictions, true of Republican or Democrat, they're going to take the path of least resistance, right? There's nothing that they actually stand for. You guys do this podcast every week because you love this country, you love the idea of good government, and you recognize that this is your part in it and you have a lot of people that you reach, right? Yep. Because it's
a conversation and we help the audience sort through it together.
Right. Yep. You don't care about politics itself. You actually care about the idea of good government.
James Deese is in the chat.
Oh, jeez.
Holcomb came to my house and he stole like 3 of my bikes. So, and James Deese, if you guys remember, if you go back and look at your Republican Party history, James Deese is a noted Republican who lost the 4th district primary to Jim Baird. Longtime Republican stalwart, James Deese. Okay.
I'm not going to say I did vote for James Deese. I'm not going to say I didn't vote for James Deese.
I would have.
Again, I'm not going to say I did not vote for James Deese.
I would have loved to seen James Deese on the House floor.
James Deese is the congressman that America deserves. Okay,
you know me, and I've said that about Trump for a long time. He is the president America deserves.
He's not the congressman America deserves. He's the congressman that America needs.
So when you're not wed to anything in your path of least resistance, you don't have any core beliefs or thoughts of your own. You're always looking to other people. And when they came to him and said, you got to shut the state down, there's not that trigger in your head. All of us, Guffey, everybody here would say, wait a second. What about the lives, the daily existence of the people I'm destroying? The people who go to work, the business owners, the whole infrastructure of society. But if you've always been in government and you've always been in politics, the money is just always there.
There's no risk.
Yeah.
It's just always there. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And to Eric Holcomb, in the beginning, I think almost unmaliciously, it was life experience tells me, well, the money's always there. We'll figure it out. But then what happens is when you're an elitist and you don't like to be challenged, when people go, wait a second, dude, the money's not there for me. I want my business back open, and you're a giant piece of crap for ruining my life.
The first optics of this going terribly wrong for Governor Holcomb was when he shut down the state. He said, state parks are closed. You can't go. And then it turns out, hey, Governor Holcomb has a private residence in Brown County State Park that you just closed to the public. I can't go stay there, but he did. And then he goes into Nashville, Indiana, and poses for a selfie with two people, no mask.
Within hours of him issuing the plan to reopen the state and telling everyone
And
how important the masks are.
Whenever I first saw that, I think it was a candidate for Congress in our district, Janine Lee Lake, who shared the picture. I was still a pretty big Holcomb fan at that time because he had just rolled out that plan.
The data-driven plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The science.
Yeah.
You got to trust
like,
the science, Dakota.
So I was like, that had to be taken like weeks ago. And now they're like,
It's a Rob Kendall plot to
I'm
destroy
like,
the governor.
And now they're just, they've pulled it up and now they're saying that it was just, a few hours ago. And then he's like, at the next presser, he's like, I'm really sorry. I was like, no.
Zach, you're an astute watcher of all things political. You don't always get involved or comment, but you saw this happening.
Yeah.
What's your gut feeling as he's progressing through this?
Well, on that one, I'm usually not. I don't know. I didn't know all the history of how it got in there. I kind of rolled my eyes. I kind of thought at that point people are still getting used to it. I thought that's a screw up. He's going to really. I was like, but at the same time, he's trying to be human, because I was like.
Oh, he's playing 4D chess and he did it on purpose.
Yeah, well,
just seemed
he
fallible.
just was trying to be nice. Because I think most people are like, it's weird to be talking to somebody and then like, oh wait, don't take a step.
And at that point,
and we were
very few
adjusting
people
to
were
that.
wearing masks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The way before the mask, I don't think I owned one yet, and I was just sitting at home. But I was in the state park thing, and I remember he has a residence there. I was like, oh, that's cute. And then I think at that point Brown County was lobbying, like the community down there was lobbying to shut that park down.
They were the ones that got all of the state parks shut down, and he listened to them because apparently he lives there. But they said, hey, we have one pharmacy, we have one grocery store, we have one gas station, and we can't have you interlopers from Henry County or Marion County coming down here and getting us sick. Apparently the governor can because he has a residence there. But
Did you guys even know he had a cabin? I had no idea he had a cabin. I didn't know that.
I figured Mitch Daniels would have sold it, honestly.
I looked it up, and I looked up the cabin he was at, and I was like, "Wow, that place is sweet." I'm like, I wonder how much it costs to rent that place.
Here's the story you won't hear about that cabin is that Daniels, and I heard this from very reliable sources. Daniels very rarely used the cabin. Didn't acknowledge the cab. What was that?
I said, was it Q? Your anonymous source?
No, it was not QAnon. People have been to the cabin. Daniels did nothing with it because, Mitch, the Blade, right? I mean, who put all the money into the cabin was Mr. and Mrs. Pence.
Oh,
all the taxpayer money came from the Pences, just like with the governor's mansion. So sometimes people don't walk the walk that they talk, and you'll see a lot of that. But I didn't even know he had a cabin. And I can't imagine hours after you've given an order of everyone to shut the hell up and stay home and wear a mask that you go on quasi vacation and are photographed taking a photo with you're taking a photo with strangers without masks. It is who he is.
So that was the first chink in the armor. And then we go down the path, and it's, if you guys all behave and do everything just right by July 4th, we're going to go to stage 5 and it's going to be okay.
Can I touch on one more thing though? Because There was a big thing that I was screaming about at the time, and now people talk about it. They reference it just as the thing that it is. He called, so shortly after these orders, the shutdown orders, even before the maskless photo, I think, there's a protest on the governor's lawn, peaceful protest. They were great people. They picked up all their trash, no violence, just salt of the earth, wonderful people. And the protest was, hey, brah, I'd like to go to work and I'd like to have my business open. Thanks.
On the governor's lawn, No social distancing, no masks. Everybody's freaking out. Right?
Legal protest. I mean, they weren't storming the Bastille. You know, I mean, it was all, they had the proper permitting, whatever. He comes out at his press conference and calls those people a human petri dish. Mm-hmm. I can't think of much worse in this society to call your fellow man than a human petri dish. And that was the moment to me. It's like, you are such an elitist and you think you're so much better than everyone else.
I think
you're dangerous.
Deplorables is up there too.
Deplorables popped into my brain too.
Well, yeah, but
yeah.
Those two people have a similar mindset. They maybe have different letters next to their name, but it's the same thing, right? These people are literally begging you. I need to work. I need to eat. I need to feed my family. I need to pay my rent. And you call them a human petri dish. Then a few weeks later, the people who facilitate in many ways the looting and rioting of downtown Indianapolis, Governor Unqualified comes out and goes, well, those are noble people. This is a noble cause. So the people who want their jobs back are human petri dishes, but the people who facilitate in many ways the looting and rioting of downtown Indianapolis, that's noble. That is when he lost a lot of people.
So all the while, Rainwater has been running his campaign, picking up steam, continuing to attend local events, continuing to come out with policy positions. And somewhere along the line, folks said, I'm looking for a different alternative. Dr. Myers has been the most quiet candidate I've ever seen in my life. I've done this, this is my fourth governor's race that I've been plugged into the political world in. And I've never seen somebody, this should have been, it's a pandemic. He's the state health commissioner, doctor. He should have been the tip of the spear, press every day. This should have been the ultimate for him. And instead, nobody cares. And that's where Rainwater comes in and fills the void.
And you guys, you being the Libertarian Party, deserve a lot of credit, because I know there was some debate when it was Levin running against Rainwater. Hey, who do we pick? Because Levin's sort of as Abdul and I described it on the State House Happenings podcast we do, like there's a lot of circus type mentality with Levin, which will bring a lot of eyes to him. Like he's a guy he's
a showman.
He is.
But with Don, you have a candidate that actually is ready to do the job. And
I got to admit that at the time at that convention, because the convention happened right before the whole COVID thing, I thought you guys might have made a mistake by not going with Levin, because I felt like Levin would get you guys a lot of state earned media.
Press. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have agreed with him on a lot of things, but if the goal is to get at a guy who's literally destroying the state, maybe a guy who gets statewide media is the best choice. You guys hit a home run in picking Rainwater because he's likable. He's a nice guy. He comes off as gubernatorial. You see him speak. He's got
a very deep voice, very good stature. He's experienced. He's run for office a number of times.
Yeah.
He's a veteran. He's a business owner.
We taped a couple videos together that are coming out every couple days about various issues. And so many people have said, I'd never seen the guy in person before, but he looks like he belongs in that job. And so you guys at the Libertarian Convention really did a great job. Now, you couldn't have imagined all of this, but hey, it doesn't matter how you got there, right? It's just that you got there. You guys did a tremendous job in picking that candidate.
You've always got to show up. You've always got to field candidates, and you never know when it's going to be the year that you catch lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
and never know.
And people see him and they say, I can see this guy in this position. He's totally right on most of the views, right? I mean, in the debate, he's going to win because the people are going to say, I agree with that. The problem with the Libertarians is, how do you get enough people that by the time you get to the debates, people are actually watching with intent and interest? And you're going to have that this year. And it's a great position that the Libertarians are in.
It's a wild time. And you potentially we don't know what's going to happen with the presidential side. You've got a state that's generally very Republican. But if you end up with folks that are interested in splitting their tickets for other races down ballot, that's an even further opportunity for Rainwater, because he's going to have people that don't just go in and check that red box and move on. By the way, if you check that red box, you're not voting in your county council races and you're not voting in your school board races. So do your job and go all the way through the damn ballot.
Do you think that since the poll came out that had him at 24%, do you think he's even higher now? Because my social media seems to be quite a bit more active about Don Rainwater since the poll.
So it's two things, right? The internet's not real life. We always say that. And so if we're going to say it on other things, we got to say it here. Internet's not real life. But anecdotally, when you talk to people, they are so fed up with high tax Holcomb that they know Myers isn't a viable option. And you see this dude, and the more you see him, and the more you like him, and he's a dad, and he's a grandpa, and he's a veteran, and he's a normal dude, and he's a good dude, and he's pragmatic, and he comes off as the sort of guy that can work with other people on both sides of the aisle and come up with legislation that promotes liberty and freedom. You say, I can see this guy being governor. And Indiana has a history of taking turds who defy the people and betray the people and flushing them down the toilet. We saw it in 2007 with the mayor's race in Indianapolis when Greg Ballard came out of nowhere.
Bart Peterson.
And then we saw it in 2012 with Richard Lugar and Richard Murdoch, in which people said they just made up their mind.
I'm done.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, you've had your time. I've heard you. And you're not, in this case, because Lugar had all the money too, right? And Peterson had all the money. And all the money in the world is not going to save you, and you're not going to spend what's going on in my existence. You're not going to feed me, gruel and tell me it's steak.
So that has been the interesting thing, is that almost every day Holcomb is rolling out another endorsement of an organization or a PAC that says, I love Eric Holcomb. And I've noticed that it's never a voter. I've not seen a single picture of Susan from Brushville saying that Eric Holcomb is the best and he's the person for me. But and as soon as you see that roll out, once again, it's the flood of comments for Don Rainwater's my guy. You've got 500 people that say, I want Rainwater. Nobody says yes, absolutely, because the Indiana State Police or the Chamber of Commerce or the Right to Life group or the NRA or whatever major group is endorsing, the endorsements have not been reaching regular voters.
Guff, you can get in on this too. Have any of you guys ever voted based on an endorsement in any level?
Not that I can ever recall.
A personal endorsement.
Maybe.
If I have a friend say, hey, you need to go vote for so-and-so for the school board, that matters.
It could be, maybe connected to the endorsement, because I know whenever Chris was running in his city council race, we did a sit down, which was a big deal. We were invited as libertarian candidates, and I, as the chairman at the time, was invited along with them to just answer questions about libertarianism in general. Okay, so this was for the firefighters local union here, and it was for their endorsement. So would Chris getting the endorsement in the newspaper make it that much of a difference? Probably not. But would the funding and the donations that they had given him made a difference? Yes.
Potentially. But when you get a race that's this polarizing, money's not going to matter.
And
right? You get people that are just pissed off and they say,
right.
I'm not.
They said
there comes a point where there's so much damage that you can't fix it with money.
Eric Holcomb has $8 million in his account, and Woody Myers has just under $100,000.
And Rainwater's raised like $70,000 this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's coming.
So that is the key, right? And think about who the endorsements are. And think about where we're at. So we're in September. Most people haven't even super started paying attention yet. We're in September, and what have they rolled out this week? The NRA and Right to Life. I never remember when it was R versus D, the Republicans proudly touting NRA and Right to Life because they're super controversial in terms of the general electorate. They're polarizing.
Yeah.
They're not doing that because they're worried about Woody Myers. They're doing it. Maybe we can get to this in a minute about the internal polling that I know Holcomb is and the Republicans are doing. They're doing it because they know they're in danger. And look, Right to Life, and I saw many comments about this, and I'm one of them. If you're going to endorse a guy that left abortion factories open while he shut down Wendy's, I'm out. I'm never giving another dime to these people because you guys are just another political organization. You're not really about saving lives. Eric Holcomb is not pro-life.
The NRA also endorsed the guy for president that signed more gun laws into the books than Obama. So
that's right. So it shows you they're very worried. They're very concerned. And I think he's in big trouble.
Yeah, let's get to this polling because I've seen it, and I've seen it on social media, and it might be from you, where that Holcomb had an internal poll done and didn't release the results.
So I know of at least 2 they've done, and you guys are political veterans here. You know how that works.
If you like it, it's out there.
Because keep in mind, he put out a poll right before the primary that showed him the most popular Republican since Ronald Reagan. If Reagan arose from the grave, according to his poll, it would be neck and neck between Eric Holcomb and Ronald Reagan. It also showed Donald Trump as the least popular Republican since Herbert Hoover. The polling Abdul did, which is actually scientific, which shows the data. It shows how they did it. He interviewed the pollster and they went through it, shows the reality. And it's the same thing I've heard from not one, but two people. They are finding in their own poll. The only reason he's winning now is because of Joe Biden voters. Joe Biden voters, 16 to 18%, it kind of fluctuates, are what's putting him over the top. That's how he's getting across the finish line, which is why he didn't release the mask mandate, because the Biden voter likes the mask mandate.
He's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, because he's on this line where he's losing his own base, right? His base is eroding. Woody Myers is like capped out at 30 or 32%, and that seems to be where he's going to be.
He's never moved from there.
And now you can't lose the people he can't piss off the Biden voters so much where they just don't vote for governor. He's going to erode either way. He's either going to lose the base that got him elected last time, or he's going to lose the people that might put him over the top.
The problem is,
and they're not super happy about going to stage 5 either. Those Biden people are also, I've seen a whole lot of folks that say, oh my God, we're not ready for this. There's no way.
But when you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, right? I mean, all we can ask of people who go into public service is I stand for whatever. And people will judge me on the merits of what I stand for. I did that all the time. You take the stances that are with your core convictions that you believe are best for the people around you, that are in line with the Constitution and the oath of office you take.
Said that a bunch of times about Mike Pence on this show, is I might disagree with him on quite a few policy decisions, but I can say at least one thing, and that is that whenever he makes up his mind, he usually has his own personal convictions behind his mind making.
Until 2016, but now
he
somebody
really
else thinks
doesn't
for him.
And it's
Can you imagine the conversation between Mike and Karen when they had to talk about going to work with Trump? Can you imagine that?
It's just, but it's very rare that you see Mike Pence move the needle at all on where he stands personally, and I respect him for that. But I mean, yeah, a lot of those things I don't stand for personally, but at least I know that he's at least seems genuine.
He's a known quantity. I mean, you know
Right.
what you're going to get with him.
Exactly. But you're right. With Holcomb, you just really have no idea.
And I think people are looking now more than ever for someone who's willing to step up, right? They're willing to raise their hand and say, I will take this situation.
From the federal government down to the very local level that we have seen in recent weeks, this country has a very, very bad problem with real leadership in leadership positions.
100% correct. And I had a local, I realize we're getting kind of off on
You're
this.
fine,
But
Matt.
I had a local politician call me the other day about an issue. And I just flat out told him, I said, your problem is you need to be liked. You want to be liked. You care about when you go to the ribbon cutting that people think you're great. And I said, that's why you're not good at your job, because you know what's right. You know what to do. You know what's best for the citizenry, but you go around the edges. You never stand up for anything. And I said, people may pretend they like you, but I said internally they laugh at you. They know you're weak. And our country is riddled on all levels, like you said, with these politicians who have no core belief other than reelection.
There are two kinds of local politicians. There is the person that's going to sit there and listen to everybody and not have their mind made up the entire time and decide at the last possible second and not know. And there's the kind of person that has a core belief, and that's going to drive them forward. And that's what it is. And those are the people that I have friends that do all of it, right? I have lots of local friends in politics, but the people that say, these are my core beliefs. This is where I'm going to be. Sometimes it's popular. Sometimes it's not, but this is the path we're on. This is what I want to do. Those are the ones that I have the most respect for.
It's an amazing time to be alive, isn't it? Like, I mean, and I looked at
Something like that.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it truly is. It's an amazing time to be alive. And, you know this. I looked at running for this libertarian nomination, and I couldn't have ever envisioned COVID. And there's a big part of me now that's like, wow, wouldn't it be great to be in that arena? But in a weird way, I think Donald Rainwater
Is the best prepared.
is almost the perfect guy for the equation, because he's not polarizing as a person. He's convicted. He has a core set of beliefs that he believes in, that he will fight for, but they're rooted in the idea of liberty and freedom for all people to set their own course. And he's so darn likable when you meet him that he's almost the perfect guy for this moment.
So
All right.
the next question that happens in this is, on last Friday, did the governor's race get overshadowed? Now people aren't going to pay attention because Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And now does it all become, we can't talk or discuss or anything other than the top of the ticket? It's Biden versus Trump versus Jorgensen. If you talk to some of us, that's the only race that matters. You got to decide who's going to be on the Supreme Court. This conversation is the only one that matters. We're back to that again.
I'd be curious to hear you guys first. I've gone first on everything so far.
Right.
So let's give a little bit of background. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died September 18th, 2020. She left an opening on the Supreme Court, obviously. She was appointed to the Supreme Court of the United States in 1993 by Bill Clinton, and she had her first bout with pancreatic cancer in 1996, I guess. I did not know that it was so early into her career. She was the second woman on the Supreme Court of the United States, and she was the first Jewish woman on the Supreme Court of the United States. And I read through her rap sheet, which is, I guess, a fitting term since her nickname is the Notorious RBG or RGB. And she had...
We call it a resume, not a rap sheet when it comes to judges, man. I don't know.
It goes along with the nickname, like the Notorious B.I.G.
Thank you for this water, by the way.
Absolutely.
You guys are so well stocked here at the...
We try.
She had
It's Clover
a
Valley.
hand-
Nobody knows where that comes from.
She had a hand in so many rulings. She was a tiebreaker a lot too, where she was, I'm pretty average in that I don't pay a lot of attention to the Supreme Court, to be honest. It's just kind of, unless there's like
She was the ultimate mascot of the liberal wing of the Supreme Court.
Right. But she was, as the years went on, you started hearing her name more and more often. And I don't know if it's because, she was 87 whenever she died, so she was getting up there in age. I don't know if it's just because the left was just very worried about having a conservative president making the appointment or what. But she did an extreme amount of rulings and looked over a lot of different cases in her career. But now that she's passed away and we're so close to the election, it seems like... Well, actually, Lindsey Graham, if you remember in 2016, and he was trying to block the I can't remember the justice now.
Merrick
Garland?
Yeah, Garland. Whenever he was trying
He was Obama's appointee after Scalia passed away in 2016.
To block that appointment in 2016, he actually said the words in an interview, "In the future, you can use these words against me," which was a horrible mistake.
I saw that quote. That quote didn't age well for him.
Yeah. So now those words are being used against him because we are close to an election year, or we are in an election year. We are close to the actual election date. And the Democrats are saying the same thing the Republicans did. We need to let the American people decide at the next election who they want to replace our GB.
So the issue that everybody's going to struggle with, and the night it happened, I put a Facebook post out saying, no matter what happens, let's not get into the nasty and the terrible and the awful that's coming, because that's not we can't take it. This has been a bad enough year.
Nice of you to
not get into the mud, and let's try to do better, at least individually. We know what's going to happen from Washington, and
be
everybody
realistic,
thinks
Jeremiah. You knew it was coming.
I'm not participating in it. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call out the complete and total hypocrisy from both sides, who pick up the argument from 2016 and they just swap. That's what happens. It's exactly what you expected to happen, and that's what has happened. Magically, they'll make up the rules that say, well, I mean, if both the Senate and the presidency are controlled by the same party, then that goes to rule number 17B that was in 1934 when we were packing the courts with Roosevelt, and it says that it's fine. So you can be arbitrary as you want to. You know what's right and what's not right. If it was good enough for you in 2016, it probably ought to be good enough now. And look in the mirror, both sides, and do it. Is the president going to nominate somebody? Yeah, probably. Does he have 51 votes to get the next person through? Yeah, probably. So that's what's going to happen.
I'll just say, I think that it was silly and probably not the right move for the Republicans to play this game in 2016. Because the Constitution just says that whenever there's a vacancy in the Supreme Court, then the president will fill the vacancy and the Senate will to vote on filling.
What should have happened, in my opinion, in 2016 is they should have had the hearings, and if they didn't want to have Garland, then they should have voted no.
Yeah,
they had the Senate. They should have, if they didn't want to do it, and they had the stones to vote him down, then say no.
Go through the process
and keep voting no until you get your guy. Aaron Dickens says it's not the argument; it's the outcome, and that's Aaron is a fine Democrat, and that is the view: is that the ends justify the means. We don't care what we have to do. You're going to fight the battle, and you're going to pick up whatever argument you have to do to fight that battle. The reason they're doing this is because if they don't stop it now, that if the Democrats don't stop it now, the Supreme Court has a horrible future for them if Trump wins re-election, which is very plausible. Stephen Breyer, the last remaining Clinton appointee, is 82 years old.
I always get confused if it's Breyer or Souter that's still left.
I know.
Those guys look the same, and I feel like they're the same guy.
Just generic vanilla white guy, right? I have to look it up and write it down to do it. So Breyer is 82, meaning 86, 87. You're running on borrowed time now, right? So he really needs Biden to win if he's going to retire.
He's also a conservative justice, so if he starts seeing the writing on the wall,
no, he's not. He's one of the Democrats. He's one of the liberals. Yeah, he's a Clinton appointee. So he's 82 years old.
The next name you're about to say.
The next two that you have to look at are the ones that are real tricky. Antonin Scalia, he's 72 and he can retire at any time he wants to.
Yeah, well,
right?
Scalia's dead.
But I'm sorry, not Scalia. Gosh darn it. Clarence Thomas.
Very confused.
Clarence Thomas is 72 years old.
That's not the name either.
Oh gosh. All right. It's memorizing judges for 1,000. Clarence Thomas is 72 years old. He's been serving for 30 years. So he plausibly could retire under the next Trump
administration. He's probably your best justice though. Like I feel like Thomas, maybe Alito's pretty darn good too.
So he could retire. But if you're just entirely looking at protecting the court, Alito is 70 years old and he's served for 15 years. Roberts is 65 and has served for 15 years. There's a rule of 80 for Supreme Court justices, for all federal judges. And it says that if you've got 15 years of service and 65 years, or whatever combination gets you to that number 80, you can retire with full pay, full benefits. You're good, $250,000 a year for the rest of your life. And your guy can be in charge, right? So you could, if they want to get completely political, Breyer may end up going just because of his age, and the other three could retire under Trump, and you could have a 7-2 majority of Republican picks.
So a couple of things on this. One, isn't it amazing that no one bats and I were throwing these ages out, and no one's like, man, you should probably be retired, right? Like, think about with Ginsberg.
87.
So she was in her mid-80s when Obama was still president. She had a wonderful opportunity because that's why this dying wish stuff is bullcrap. Because if you actually cared about the court, when you were in your mid-80s, look, I loved my grandparents to death. And in their mid-80s, they were still fully coherent, but I wouldn't have wanted them making legal interpretations that affect an entire nation.
At 84 years old, my grandmother would have said, wear the mask. It's because they said you should.
I mean, who is Stevens, the guy in Alaska that referred to the internet as a bunch of tubes one time in his age? I mean, there comes a point where you just say, look, you shouldn't be making decisions. Dianne Feinstein's in her 80s, et cetera.
I think that Biden and Trump are too old to be president.
Well, yeah. I mean, it is
well in the 80s.
Pretty ridiculous that in a country of 350 or 30 million people or whatever we've got now, that these are the two best we can do, and they're both very senior citizens. Nothing, not to be an ageist, but it's like, look,
well, it's just true. I mean, it's not. Listen, nobody is like, I turned 75 and I have all this energy now, and my brain works better. That's not how humans work.
And you don't understand things as much as you want to. You don't fully understand things that go on because the workforce is dominated by younger people. The country is dominated by younger people. They're raising the families. They're buying the goods and services. They're the dominant part of the economy. Like, so she's in her mid-80s and she's so selfish that she knows if Obama's president, because the Republicans always just roll over on the court, they could have had whoever they wanted. And she didn't quit then, but she's so self-absorbed. So I don't care what your dying wish was.
That is the conversation of, it's your lifetime appointment. You can go as long as you want to, but do you want to step aside and do what Souter did?
Yeah.
Vanilla white guy, and open the door for a Kagan or a Sotomayor
or Kennedy or
I really think it just boils down to the fact that, like, if you look at RGB's career, and how hard that she worked since leaving law school. And then she finally, in 93, so that was 29 years ago?
27.
27? Okay.
Before he was
60.
And she's
ancient
in her
dust back then to him.
She's 60 years old, and she's worked that hard to get to that place. That is the pinnacle of your career that you could ever achieve. It's got to be extremely hard to let it go, even with a sweet retirement package.
Think about it in a sports analogy, like watching Willie Mays at the end of his career with the Mets, or Hank Aaron at the end of his career with the Braves, or even Mickey Mantle, or whoever. It happens to all sorts of players, other than Tom Brady, apparently, who is ageless. But there comes a time where you just say, I can't do this anymore.
I mean, you see it with fighters
Adam
all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't feel bad about the Republicans filling this seat because, look, so here's an analogy. Had a buddy, and this has always stuck with me about how politics works. He used to go to the Lions game every Thanksgiving back when I assume they'll have a game on Thanksgiving this year and it'll be the Lions, but he would go to the Lions game every year because you get tickets because nobody cared about the Lions. And they would cut off beer sales right at the start of the fourth quarter. Literally, no matter who was in line, whatever. If you didn't get your beer by the time the ball was snapped at the beginning of the fourth quarter, they'd cut it off. And so he's in line and he recognizes, man, I'm cutting this close. There's certainly not going to be able to go back and get another beer. He orders like 4 beers and because I guess there really wasn't a limit. So it takes him a long time to fill these 4 beers for this guy, and they put them all in the cart and he pays for it. Well, by the time he's paid, the ball has been snapped. And there's a lady behind him who's the last lady in line. He gets his beers, turns around, looks at her. She's, of course, fuming because this guy just totally screwed her over. He just looks at her, shrugs his shoulders, goes, sorry, state law, and walks away. I feel like that's the way the Republicans should handle the Supreme Court. We all know you all are full of crap. You have no core convictions. It's all political. Just fill the seat and admit what you are.
It's hot potato.
Because that's your job to begin with.
You're playing hot potato or
Just
musical chairs, and it worked out in your favor this time.
Exactly.
That's
you
the game.
got lucky. The people elected you to fill the seat. Do your job.
Yeah, don't give us all these BS excuses of, well, there was a Republican majority Senate and a Democrat president, so it's different.
So Ted Cruz says that we have to have it. It's unsafe to go into the next election 4-4.
Well, they did it 4 years ago.
So what if they said, okay, you know what? Sandra Day O'Connor's still alive. We all agreed on her 30 years ago. Let's just play it safe. We'll appoint Sandra Day O'Connor. She'll sit there for 6 months, and then we'll see what happens next year when she retires again.
But you are right, Boss Hog, when you said they should have said our job is to advise and consent. We advise you, Obama. We do not consent on Merrick Garland.
Right.
Next.
Send me another one.
Yep.
Send me another
Boom.
one.
That's
and then you wouldn't have this fight again because it's, hey, we let you have your conversation. We didn't like the guy. Send me another one. We'll keep them coming. We'll keep going.
100%.
And they didn't do that, and now they have this problem today.
And it's spineless weasels on both sides. And point is, though, I mean, sorry, state law. Fill the seat.
But now McConnell,
Federal law.
Mitch McConnell,
Constitutionalists.
Mitch McConnell is saying that with Mitt Romney on board as the last holdout, he has 51 votes in the Senate.
I was going to say, isn't there one Republican holdout right now?
2, Collins and Murkowski, the 2 corners of the country, Alaska and Maine. They're those women in government playing with different rules than the old boys club.
I'm shocked Romney said yes. I'm floored. Aren't you?
I
you
am
guys?
legitimately
He
surprised.
had to have liked. I guess he had to have seen the pick and said, "Okay." But
Romney and Rand Paul. There are a lot of people that could, if Jeff Flake was still there. Good God, there's a lot of people that could have been thorns in the side to cause the issue. And I don't know for certain, but I think 50-50 Pence breaks the tie and they confirm.
Yeah.
So even if Romney did go away, 50-50 Pence votes and it happens.
It's always better to have one vote to lose, right? Because I think Manchin, if it comes for a vote from West Virginia, is going to vote for yes.
He's going to go. Zach, what do you think? Where are you at? Are you you tend to lean?
I lean left.
Not Trumpy.
Oh, not in his quotes about why he needs to make the pick, I found like disturbing because he basically said, "I need the Supreme Court to throw out the mail-in ballots so I can win the presidency." He basically said that. He said, "I need the Supreme Court to win me this election," because he's. I mean, the thing I've seen that people say is going to happen and it's going to be a nightmare. Is that when the election comes down, Trump's going to be ahead when we all go to bed, and then they're going to start counting mail-in ballots, and that's where if he loses, if he does,
of the Joe Biden voters,
that's where he will lose is when the Democrat. There are going to be more Democrats voting mail-in.
I don't want to get on the crazy train with President Trump, but there's an article in the Gannett paper today in Muncie, this Muncie Star Press, saying that the Delaware County Democrats have a precinct committee person who had a list that she worked from, and she already knew the birth dates and every other date for everybody that was maybe going to vote early. So she went ahead and requested absentee ballots for all of them online, and they started showing up at their houses. And these people are going, I didn't order a ballot. So these guys have got real legitimate ballots showing up at their houses.
On the hyper-local level, Democrats need to make sure that they are squeaky clean.
And they're not. Yeah. And there's a legitimate problem in the town north of us.
And it doesn't take anything for people to, I mean, they don't even have to fabricate it, because I've seen people post it. Like, look, these people got 3 mail-in ballots at home. And you look at it, it's like the same person got 3 ballots. And I'm like, you look at the picture, I'm like, they're addressed to 3 different people. But the person just shared it because people are just sharing just left and right. So that,
do 3 people live in the home?
Yeah. And so, but it's politics.
Have we made it too easy? Because I could literally, I know your birthday, Zach. I could go online and say, I go to Indiana Voters and say, hey, I'm Zach and I need a mail-in ballot. And an absentee ballot is going to come to your house. And then if it went to the wrong address, or you're not there, or your mail got lost, and you tried to show up on election day, but that mail got lost or delayed, or the mail system was broken one way or another, or it got delivered to the wrong house, and you show up to cast your ballot, they're not going to let you cast a ballot because you've got an open valid ballot out there somewhere that might be in the mail coming back, and they won't let you vote twice.
Listen, in the year 2020, it's ridiculous that we can't vote from our phones yet. We can bank from our phones. I think that you should be automatically registered to vote whenever you turn 18.
You file your taxes from your phone.
And then the government should just have a freaking app that you just open and you vote. There's got to be some person like James Neese out there that's smart enough to do the security work.
So much money.
I mean, and you could track all that like that. There's an electronic trail with all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a way. Someone way smarter than me that knows what they're doing with technology and security. I mean, how do CIA spies communicate back to Washington, D.C.
with the phone?
Yeah.
So what?
I think they use Facebook Messenger.
So on the flip side of that, and I'd be curious to see what the answer is. Why do you think it's too much to ask people one day out of every?
I don't think it's too much to ask,
because we know that's secure, right?
Right. I don't think it's too much to ask. I'm just saying, like, that would, and in our current time, that would take care of all of these.
Except for the 87-year-old woman who can't freaking look. I struggle when Snapchat updates on my phone and it makes noises.
Right.
Can you imagine having to take your grandmother and teach her how to vote?
Right.
I think the other issue is that they're having a hard time with getting poll workers. And so they're ending up in a situation where I think Henry County a couple of years ago, you had like 8 or 10 places you could go vote. And now it's down to, I think, like 4 or 5.
We've completely changed the way that we do voting in our community. We used to have 41 different polling places, and they were all little tiny precincts. And now we've gone to these big vote centers, and you've got like 8 places to vote.
And the people that normally work those are usually like older folks, retirees.
They're Ginsberg
like at risk. Yeah. And so they're in a bad spot. And so I think here early voting's open. So like encourage people, if you don't go vote early, you can vote early.
Vote early, vote often.
And if you don't
live in Chicago,
if you vote early, guess what? You're going to go in somewhere and you're going to probably be the only person voting at that time. You won't have to deal with lines or a whole bunch of people.
That's what I've done the last couple cycles. Is I have just gone ahead and voted on a Saturday, a week or two before the election, and it's in, and you're set, and it's done.
I like going and standing in line for the polls. Yeah, the guy that was just advocating.
Oh yeah, you're in a union. You like the time off they give you from work. They guarantee it.
I get the day.
I don't get any time off work.
Mr. Government worker over there.
I volunteered to work the polls this year.
That's a genius thing.
It's easy money.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm off work, and if they need people, I'm in my 30s. I'm fine to help out. And yeah, you get paid a little bit. I'm like, yeah, a little bit of money to buy dinner later on. I'm like, yeah, what's it hurt to do it?
I mean, being a clerk, because I did it several years, is the easiest job. ID, It's changed now. You don't have to sign a book anymore, but you just look at the ID, address, boom, sign.
They scan the back of your driver's license
You
here.
do nothing, and you get like $140 for the day.
And if nothing else for locally, I can warn them about our awful polling our machines.
I'm going to send all of our voters to you.
Yeah, our machines slap your hand electronically if you don't vote straight ticket.
You've made a mistake. Go back and check the
Are you
box.
sure you don't want to just vote for one Team Elephant or Team Donkey? Are you sure?
Or Team Porcupine. Don't
Which I
leave us
think
out.
is so ridiculous on the ballots because it makes it so.
It confused a lot of people.
No, I'm just talking about the straight ticket thing. How it's got the animal for the party next to it.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, it says Republicans got the little
elephant.
The little elephant.
Is that a statewide thing or a county thing? Because I've never straight
it's a
ticket
county.
voted.
I've only ever voted in Henry County.
Our machines got like more complicated. They were kind of like iPads, and it was real simple. And then now it's a thing where you get this piece of paper and you feed it in there, and then it sucks out. But it immediately, there's like no, they don't have the same technology that gas pumps have. Where when you get done with a gas pump, there's like, a 15-second delay before it goes into like, welcome back to here. It immediately asks for you to put it back in. And you're like, wait. And you start like, no. It's asking for the next voter. But it literally hasn't given you 2 seconds.
No, I want to vote 3
away.
times.
Yeah.
Flip it over.
So
it's going to be an adventure.
Yeah.
2-year-old voting equipment
Trump's
that's worse than we
last
had
rally,
before.
where he said that maybe he would make an executive order to make Biden not president. It was hilarious. It was a good joke.
My favorite thing, though, is
I do like that about Trump. I like watching him say stuff like that, and then I like watching CNN take it seriously.
well, I guess he was asked, can you guarantee a peaceful transition? He was like, what's he going to do? He can barely walk down a ramp or drink a glass of water. What's he actually going to do?
He'll come downstairs with Mel Gibson's hatchet.
All right. We are at that point in the show where we've run out of stuff to talk about. That's actually a lie, but we are, the clock says that we probably ought to be wrapping up. So we'll start our traditional final thoughts and wake up producer Chris over here.
Hello,
in the corner.
I've been listening.
You've been over here playing video games?
No, I've been watching this game and listening to the conversation.
What's going on in the sports world?
So currently 14 Miami, 0 Jags. Luckily I did not play that. Luckily I did not play that fantasy lineup team today because I probably would be shit out of luck.
The Jags are sucking because they wore teal on teal, and that is a crime against the world.
And those uniforms are ugly.
You never go solid on solid. That's a bad choice.
There's a little tick mark for who has the ball next to the number. And whenever the Dolphins had 7 and they had the ball, I looked up there and I thought it said -7.
Oh my God.
And I was like, how do you get negative points?
There's a funny thing coming up with the show notes today, and Dakota like mixed up the date on a football game, and Jeremiah's giving me a hard time. I was like, we're going to put Dakota in charge of the sports part of anything.
Listen, you're just lucky I even put it on there. I was just being nice. I said,
listen, you sent me a signal when you sent over a PDF file and said, don't edit this. You just said, normally I get an invite to look at the Google Drive document and I can make my little seal of approval on it. No, I got a PDF and he said, this is the way it's going to be.
Every time that you edit the document, you don't do it in the format that it's made in.
Old married
Change
couple.
it to random something.
He'll just put a sentence without a bullet point next to it.
You should find a way to save it into a
What
WordPerfect file and send it to him. That way he didn't even know WordPerfect is.
You're going to send it back in Lotus
before
Notes.
there was Word.
All right. So final thoughts as I've been listening. And I have to say, I think Trump should just go ahead and nominate. He's going to get it approved. And I think
Thanks for joining the conversation on that one.
Hey, well, you guys talk a lot and you guys talk very loudly. And then when I try to intercede, you guys go, shut the fuck up, Guffey. I don't care what you say. That's basically what it's like.
You're never going to come work for Rob, even on Sundays.
And this is exactly
the Lord's Day. You can't do
not
that.
on Sundays.
Can you imagine handing a microphone over to that guy that goes from Ohio to Illinois? And I'd be in there vouching for my employer. Oh, this guy's great.
He's great. He did good work for Boss Hog.
It's great. It's great.
Guffey's back at the Boss Hog, and he lost Rob his job.
By the way,
I'm doing
when we're talking about Boss Hog, they're talking about me and Dakota. We're not talking about that mayor in Indianapolis who's trying to steal our name.
And the bad thing would be Guffey would be in charge of the dump button as the producer. And so if he forgot to dump himself, I'd be done.
Yeah, exactly. Over. Sometimes, but it's all right. And there was a stat that I read. It's like 29 times there has been an appointment by a president in the election year. And of that 29 times, 17 times has been when the president and the Senate's the same and they always go through. And then the other 12 times it's been an opposite party, never go through.
You know what's a little reassuring though is a couple of his big losses in the Supreme Court. The majority decision was written by his appointees.
Yeah,
so he's not really good at picking people.
Kavanaugh split from him a few times.
Yeah, so they don't line in behind him.
And so is Gorsuch. Gorsuch has been the most liberty-minded guy out there. By the way, if you had Gardner Minshew over 17 yards rushing, you just won.
Hey,
I truly believe that to get to the position where you're considered to be appointed to the Supreme Court, you have to at least you've got more integrity than the people that we elect to send to the Senate.
Well, it really is a view of government and the Constitution, right? It doesn't really come down to party. It comes down to your view of government and the Constitution. And liberal justices view the Constitution as a living, breathing thing that's open to interpretation of whatever moment we're in. And conservative justices, originalists, or whatever you want to call them,
it's written in stone.
Right, that it is what it is, and these people didn't make mistakes. And I obviously come down on that side. And if you want to change the Constitution, there's ways to do it and do it that way. But it really is. It's not a Democrat or Republican thing. They nominate people that view the law and the rule of law and the interpretation of the Constitution in a certain fashion.
Anything else, producer?
Only
Chris?
other thing is, we got a couple houses I'm looking at. Hopefully this weekend.
Are you having a meet and greet at these open houses? Are you inviting fans to come out and tour them with you?
No.
Can we do a Boss Hog poll between two houses and pick your house?
All I can say is there is a house I'm seeing tomorrow, and I sent it.
Is it serious? You're seeing the house? I'm
going to go see her house.
You're going to take it out to dinner?
Yeah. Like, we're going on a date. But I sent it to somebody on the screen right now, and next thing I know, here comes Facebook people. Oh, look, this is the people. Look, I think they just moved. I don't know what happened.
I was trying to help you understand context of the situation you might be getting into.
So
your research.
I already gave you a housewarming gift. Actually, I gave you two of them.
Actually, you didn't. I won that from the Dainty Daisy, who I think you should all go and purchase cups. I've got some ideas in mind for my groomsmen. I've got that working out. I've got some towels here.
Spoiled a surprise, didn't you?
Nope.
Guffey needs a reality show.
I'm waiting on Guffey to give me a rose so I can be a groomsman.
I was going to give you a
What
beer.
Dakota did for his bachelor for his wedding party is he kept rearranging us. He'd be like, "You're number 2 this week," and then you move up and down in the rankings. And I wound up in last place at the end, but it was a fun
hierarchy.
ride.
At some point, you guys need to do an episode of just how the whole Boss Hog of Liberty team came together. Came to know each other.
We've already done it.
Look, I came together by playing Pokemon Go in a park where I met Jeremiah.
He's not lying.
That's all I got.
Worst adventure of his life.
Yeah, it was.
All right, Rob M. Kendall, Red for Rob, hashtag Red for Rob. How do we follow you? What do you
add Rob M. Kendall on Twitter? It's an incredible follow.
It's a great time.
It's the best follow.
It takes him about 32 minutes to send out a tweet, but when he does, it's the best.
Oh, I'm old man tweeter, but once I get it out
you have
there,
all the best tweets.
I scorch everyone and everything. I have zero social media decorum, and that's why people are always like, "You should run for office again." Oh, heck no!
It's no fun.
I love being able to say whatever I want and go to bed and realize it doesn't matter.
This has been the greatest year of not running for office.
Oh, it's just I can't even imagine. Yeah, so at Robin Kendall on Twitter. Chicks on the Right each weekday, 9 to 11 on 93 WIBC. The Boss Hog of Liberty during the speed round tomorrow, which is 10:30, will be getting a shout out for the very fabulous invite for allowing me to be here, as they always do.
Incredible.
And look, just go to rainwaterforindiana.com. If you're hearing the voice, give the guy a look. Give him some consideration. If you want to volunteer, put a sign out, put signs out, donate, whatever. You got a real chance. Whether you're libertarian, pissed off Republican, pissed off Democrat, pissed off independent, the old parties are not fixing this problem. They created it. And this is a real chance for once to make a definitive difference. And your vote is not enough. You got to take people with you. Be responsible for 10 people that you can tell. So rainwaterforindiana.com.
He was on this show, and worth it to go back and listen to him. He debates Mr. Levine.
That's right. You guys had the
we had the very first debate.
the official. It wasn't quite as animated as the one they had in 16. That was great. You guys were the epicenter of all that. But yeah, I mean, he's a great dude. He's an interesting candidate, and he's certainly worthy of consideration and helping him get across the finish line.
Very good. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking me.
It's amazing. I'm always blown away that you travel out here. You're a hero.
I love this drive. Like, it is, once you get outside of Indianapolis, that stretch from once you get outside of the 465 loop to Newcastle, especially this time of year.
You have
amazing.
to be sarcastic because 70.
I'm
right
sorry,
now.
Eric Holcomb has that road in such bad shape. For you
The traffic sucked, but the view is incredible. And I loved the fact that there is a ridiculously giant and ridiculously contented Greg Pence billboard there on 72. But the drive is beautiful. I love Newcastle, the Steve Alford Inn, the giant shoe at the Hall of Fame.
All of the things.
And I love being here.
We had a whole era of the Raintree Hotel being the Oyo, and now it's back to the Raintree, and it's been the talk
one little
of
piece of the Oyo remains.
The sign is,
and that is they did not replace the O in Oyo.
Oh, I hope it never changes.
How much will you give me off if I keep the O up there?
We're out
All
of
right.
white paint. Just work around it.
All right, Zach, I don't know if you have anything planned or not, but I need you to tell the Mid-Ohio story of how we met James Hinchcliffe.
Okay.
This is what I want you to tell.
So we had golf carts, and which is the only way to get around Mid-Ohio with no shuttles because it's hilly and it takes a long.
Governor
way to get around.
DeWine said shuttles were not safe.
So we would just often just take golf cart rides, and we were going to give a tour to some people, and we're coming down this hill, and all of a sudden Hinch pulls out, and it's hard to tell it's Hinch, but his
James Hinchcliffe, NBC Sports, Indy 500 pole
perfectly
sitter.
coiffed hair, podcaster, and he's ahead of us. All of a sudden I hear somebody yell, they're like, "That's Hinch, chase him." And
Somebody in the golf cart behind him.
so we're following him. He doesn't know we're following him. And he's driving quite impressively considering he's on his phone the entire time. He's thrashing through puddles. He's doing all kinds of stuff. And we start to catch him, but he just dives into the TV complex there at the track. And we're like,
Celebrities just dash away on you.
disappear. Well, then he comes out. Like we go to leave. We're like, well, bummer. We'll go over here and check this other part of the track. And Jeremiah's golf cart has quit.
We stopped to talk about how we stopped
chase.
and realized that it was a lot like an Anchorman where they go that escalated quickly because we almost caught him and we didn't know what we were going to do if we got to him.
Yeah, we went like Boss Hog on him like he was the Dukes of Hazzard because it was like gravel and we're throwing these golf carts around,
chasing him through the infield.
This wasn't like paved roads like IMS. This is like going back roads, gravel, hitting stuff and
puddles.
Yeah, we go to leave. And the golf cart won't go anywhere. It's like, and nobody kept our cards to call the rescue guys to come tow our golf cart. And so while we're sitting there, all of a sudden, here comes Hinch out to his rental car.
We broke down right in front of us.
Right in front of his rental car. So, and it has to look bizarre because there's 8 of us, and we're all masked on golf carts because masks were a mandate over there. And we're like, hey, it wasn't me. I think it was my brother's girlfriend. I was like, hey, will you take a picture with our broken down golf cart? So we took a selfie. You can't tell it's broken down. As a matter of fact, you can't even see the golf cart in the picture because there's 8 or 9 people in the picture. But we got a picture with Hinch and everybody's masked up and it was interesting. So I don't know if he remembers us, but
the unfortunate thing
that's the only time you could see anybody because we weren't allowed anywhere else.
Yeah, you had to find them out in the wild. The unfortunate thing was that the girls had all been wearing their James Hinchcliffe
and
masks
I had
from
too.
Genesis. And that was the one day we didn't do it. So he had this mask that was printed up that his sponsor was giving out. That was his face,
the lower half of his face. I wore it to a city council meeting on Monday and got a lot of laughs. And but nobody had him on that day because we'd all worn him the day before, and so that was a bit of a. We're like, we've been wearing your mask, and I think he's like, really? He was a little surprised.
He was like, that's real weird.
Well, they look weird. The masks look weird because and you wouldn't remember this because you're too young, but if anybody ever played like Nintendo 64, and if you played GoldenEye, it's like a 64-bit face. That's what the face looks like because it doesn't move. It's just his beard and his mouth. And it was entertaining. That was our only celebrity.
That's what we should have done for
miss.
our masks.
Well, you have more time. The mask mandate has been extended, so you've got more time to capitalize.
He's got about 3.5 weeks or so.
It's never ending. This is perpetual. We're going to have mask sales forever, Dakota. All right. Was there anything else in your final thoughts? I don't want to cut you off. You've given another
always
30
L&K Farms. I think Cade's out harvesting now. And then also I should have posted them a long time ago, but and sometimes she's over there when they do their kind of Saturday farmers markets. My cousin's got a business, the Beehive Body Company. She does the soaps and the scrubs and all that.
She's got her weed bath bombs and her hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
All the good stuff you find from Middletown's finest.
Speaking of L&K, I saw one of the original. I saw Kent today, who is Cade's father, told me that their soybeans are 76 a bushel, which is freaking phenomenal. So
I don't know what that means.
76
Thank you
bushels
for
an
the
acre.
crop report.
Yes, is that absolutely phenomenal? Absolutely phenomenal. And soybeans are going up, and corn prices are raising.
What are pork bellies selling for? Just now?
I don't know. I don't know what they're selling for. I believe soybeans are going at $10.25 right now.
I feel like I'm back in the Patreon group watching my brother and Dakota discuss electricity.
Dakota, what do you got?
Except there's no one responded that.
Because none of you understand. This is my livelihood.
One thing I'm going to push though is the Patreon group. We went back and revisited. There's still a gem in the Patreon group as we were watching the West Coast burn because of gender reveals. Dakota's gender reveal video in the Patreon group is worth it all by itself. We went back and watched it, I don't know, 3 or 4 times last weekend because I was like, I haven't gone back and watched that yet. So join the Patreon just for that video. You have to scroll back a little bit to find it.
Dakota shoots himself.
Yeah.
It's a sad story.
Gotta turn the sound on.
It's a boy. Out.
The camera immediately shuts off.
Dakota, what do you know?
Not much. You need to go buy some tumblers for my wife, but it's also getting to the fall season, and she still does wreaths. We still have some leftover wreaths in my house that need to be bought up. So get those out of there. Her page is The Dainty Daisy. That's where you can find it, and she's been doing good. She's been making some pretty sweet cups recently.
There was a Friends Cup today that was very impressive. I've been a very, very tough customer, and I have not been impressed by much of Audrey's offerings until today. And I said, oh my God, she does have talent. This is amazing.
The Jack Skeleton one was awesome.
I'll admit, I looked at it and I was like, that opens up like the window of what I thought was possible. I'm like, I could start, like my brain could start working.
Yeah. Now you can start to work out a custom design. You get a tattoo, and that's for life. And one of these cups might be for life.
I love that you looked at the guy who the show basically doesn't exist without, and you just said, I'm not very impressed with what your wife's been offering. But thanks for being here.
Did you not see the Jack Skellington one?
I don't.
The Nightmare Before Christmas?
That's just evil and satanic. Nobody wants that.
Yeah. That one, I think, that one was the most impressive to me.
Yeah, I love that one.
Oh, God.
I should buy it.
It's already been...
It's sold. One of a kind, gone.
It's like the housing market. It goes too fast.
I don't even know if you get your credit approved for one of these.
People have messaged me and been like, what can she put on a cup? And I'm like, literally just say what you want.
What do you want? Yeah.
Yeah. That's all there is to it.
Maybe we need some West Wing cups.
And first of all, why are you messaging me? This isn't my business.
Or for some Red for Rob cups. There's limitless opportunities. Maybe you want one with everybody's face on the mug. We discussed some Boss Hog.
She also made some custom towels over there and she did a drawing. She did like a contest where if you liked and shared the page.
This is great if you know how to read cursive.
Let's get basted.
I can't read it. Oh, and of course, I like big bunts.
She's like, like and share the page, and you can win 2 of the towels of your choice. She made like 6 of them, and of course, Chris. There's like 50 people.
Big Bunts Guffey over
that are in it. And Chris Guffey's the one that wins.
Sounds like it was rigged to me.
Look, I've been one of her most adamant customers. I've been sharing everything.
You bought a wreath last year.
I bought a wreath my future mother-in-law loves. I bought a cup for my fiance. She loves it. All the teachers at her school love it, and they're thinking about buying some. So all I know is I'm supporting Jackson now.
What's the name again? I'm going to like it here in just a minute.
Called The Dainty Daisy. Daisy is
if you're friends with Jeremiah, he shared it earlier.
I did. I'm very loyal.
Just everything she makes sucks, but I'm very loyal.
I'm critical. I'm a very careful selector.
He didn't share it until it was the one. It was one that I liked,
and I'm like, hey, you can trust me because if it doesn't tweak me, Spangle will tell you I love hard, Dakota, and you know that. When I like something, I'm in, and I'm in on the Friends Cup.
What's weird to me is I didn't even think the Friends Cup was the most impressive one.
It was well done. It was well done. Everybody has different interests.
I know to me it opened up what I thought. What I didn't know she could put graphics like that on there. I don't think I missed the other one. I'm not like Guffey's probably so in the algorithm of Facebook that
Everyone.
He probably gets. She hasn't even hit the post yet, and it's already shown up in his feed because
Sure has.
Facebook's like, this is the customer right here.
Look, it's just like with John Kendrick. I'm a top fan, guys. Still haven't won, John. Still haven't won. My coworker did.
Oh, Sarah,
I didn't.
Sarah's won like 3 times with his gift card giveaways.
Hilarious.
Yeah, no, I was trying to win a round of Royal Highlands, which is $50 a round.
I mean, if you buy a house from the guy, I bet he can take you golfing.
I hope.
All right. That's enough of that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Rob was here next week because I'm vacationing again with Zach over here where Mayor Hogg said allows us to go. We are going to be at the racetrack. So we're doing a Tuesday show next week. So mark your calendars. It's a short week. You got us in like 5 days. And also, we need like 4 different bets to hit, and it's not going well in this Jacksonville Jaguars game. So there went
Degenerates.
There went $4. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians Network. I am Chris Spangle, and I'm the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at WeAreLibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk, which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to WeAreLibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at WeAreLibertarians.com.